Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen over the past week. My name is Mac, so let's get on with it. This week, 3.1 release gets ever near. We hear how the sound team is creating some great atmosphere, plus we get our say in what we want to see in 3.2. So, on Calling All Devs, the first question was, will we be able to climb cliffs or use thrusters when on foot? And he says, not that he knows of. They've got lots of things to get on with, and it's not in the current plans, but maybe someday. But we do know that you will be able to mantle things and pull yourself up over walls or doors or whatever. Not sure about cliffs, obviously. The next question is, cargo purchasing feels more like gambling. Is there a plan to make real-time commodity price tracking boards for the Mobiglass so we can make more informed purchases? And he says, yes, planning trade routes are something they have spoken about for a while. So ultimately, they're trying to get it into the star map to plan jumps. By clicking on a planet, you'll be able to see commodities of that planet in the star map. More safe planning than just jumping to wherever and hoping for the best. They do want it quite soon, but they've got lots of foundation work to complete before it happens, but it's absolutely in the plans. Next question. Some people prefer the 2D radar. Will we have the option to switch between 2D and 3D? And they say, no, your ship has either a 2D or a 3D radar. They cannot be swapped. There are plans to use the render to texture text to project a 3D radar and display it on a 2D image. But if your ship comes with one or the other, that is how it's going to be. When will we be able to EVA between fast-moving ships, maybe catching a runaway ship? They say it's not something they've planned for in the immediate future. It won't be impossible, though. Lots of things need to be done to EVA for it to be fun. But maybe attaching to a surface of a ship and holding on in some fashion may be a good option rather than EVAing. There are a few tech concerns like animation, for example, but it should be something they'll address when the time comes. Next question is to do with e-warfare. What types are planned for Star Citizen besides the EMP or distortion warfare? And they say they want you people to be able to hack into avionics, maybe overriding ship computers, opening doors, putting security up against being hacked as well, so making being as unhackable as possible is also part of it. But things like jamming signals or preventing communications. Transferring data physically is the best way of stopping people intercepting data, which is why we have the Herald. It's more secure than sending data over the networks, which can be hacked. But there are some other options that are coming in. He also talked about the EMP work. They've seen the communities concerned. It is obviously very trolley at the moment. The problem, he said, was being when it was converted into item 2.0, the distortion damage wasn't set up properly. They know the issues and they have tuned the EMP behaviour a little, but balancing and tweaking all the areas so that it's an ongoing process to try and balance this whole damage dealt, time to regen, and making sure people don't spam it as much. But they've seen our concerns and they've seen people getting trolled with it. They're making progress in stopping that from happening. Anyway, that was Calling All Devs, guys. Let's move on. So, on Around the Verse, it was the LA Studio update. They spoke about the character customizer, which is being polished now. They're just fine-tuning everything, tweaking the way that options are presented within the customizer, making it intuitive and responsive. Also, they've made some helmet improvements with the model geometry and making sure that the face is well lit. Work is being done on the male and female Senator outfits, plus the finishing touches on the Legacy Outlaw and Marine armor models. Lots of location improvements for Yella, Daymar and Selin, including object scattering, colour balancing and the dynamic weather effects. These are just a few of the improvements they've been making. The environmental team has been working on Delamar, making it look better when you transition from far to close, with asset scattering as well. They've also worked on something called Speed Tree, which is being sort of worked on now. They did say we'll learn more in the next few months, but it looks like some sort of planet flora generation tool. I'm not sure, unfortunately. The player hangars revamp is underway, currently in grey boxing. Work continues to make them properly modular to get them functioning in all environments. Now, the environmental team and tech team have been working on Hurston Planet and its moons. They're looking into the best way to approach Lorville using the procedural planet object presets. And also, one of Hurston's moons, Ariel, has begun. It's now in the white box blockout, which has this really unique geometry. They said they've made loads of progress for its biomes. It looks very cool. So in terms of gameplay, work continues on the Service Beacon Distress Call. This is, they say, an important step to player-generated missions and content. They're also polishing the Player Manager app on the Mobiglass, which includes the Star Marine loadout work, and so anything you earn in the PU will actually carry over into the Star Marine as well, which I really like that touch. They're putting the finishing touches on the 3.1 ships. Lots of new ships, lots of new ship and FPS weapons are also coming in, and the concept art is final for the Joker, distortion cannon, the Bayring pistol, plus others for FPS. Now, he finished off by saying that they've completed 44 out of 45 tasks needed to meet the goal for the performance and optimizing in 3.1. This is obviously a continual process, but this time they said they were focused on improving the frame rate, and I can say that the frame rate has gotten better. I am getting a more consistent 30 frames when I can get into the game, but there are still some significant lag spikes, which I'm sure they will address later on. Anyway, the main feature for Around the Verse was to talk about the sound and audio within the game and what new work is being done. This isn't shown on the roadmap, this is just done in the background. But for ship audio, they gave thrusters as an example. Thruster audio consists of multiple layers of audio that is affected by your movement whenever you do a certain turn or whatever, certain audio cues will trigger. But when isolated, it doesn't give the full effect. When they layer it all together, it sounds incredible. For ambient sound, like in derelict ships, they want to make the player feel uneasy while exploring, so they've been adding sounds inside pipes or behind walls, reacting to your presence, which gives them the opportunity to bring fear without actual visual cues. The example we got to see was the Starfarer derelict on Dayman. Now, the audio changes as you get deeper into the ship, and if you're close to an exit, you'll hear the wind rushing, which gives you kind of an audible cue that you're close to the exit. The weather outside actually affects the internal sounds, which is just awesome. If the wind is really heavy, you'll hear gusts from vents around the ship while you're inside exploring, and I can just imagine exploring a derelict ship, or even just taking refuge in a derelict ship while there's a storm going on outside. It will feel so uneasy, but just be incredible to be inside one. Another example of ambient sound we got to hear was on an outpost. The audio is varied depending on the power on or off state and the external weather as well. If you're seeking salvation from a storm outside, you'll have the feeling of that storm while inside it's still going on. With the outposts having their own power sources, you'll be able to hear machines whirring around while powered on and then cooling down or just silent when turned off. Currently, they're working on a system to have the structures reacting audibly to the weather outside as well. It's not set up yet, they're just waiting on other game systems for it to be working first, but they are prepping now. Also, the audio propagation system will be working, give you more of information of how sound will travel through rooms and affect it differently. Now finally, they spoke about music. Obviously music is a very important part of contributing to the feel of the game. They're currently expanding the music to the PU in all the new environments. They're adding intros and outros for the environment, so as you transition through each area, the music will change and trigger new different types of music, adding more variation so you don't always hear the same intro or outro as you're going to these areas. Anyway, all in all, it was a really good episode, showcasing some of the great upcoming audio features. My favourite is to do with the weather. If it's done well, it gives that proper sense of danger and the weather as if it's real, as if you're really there. The idea that being inside outposts or ships and hearing the weather outside as it changes is just going to feel phenomenal, especially to the level of detail they go into on this game. Anyway, that was it for Around the Verse. Let's move on to Reverse the Verse, guys. Let me know your thoughts. So this week's Reverse the Verse was with Chris Roberts, and it's basically a 3.2 feature survey. So they've put out this survey, which we get to vote on to determine what comes next. Anyway, Chris Roberts started by saying that he's confident 3.1 will be making the release. He said they've done lots of work on telemetry, so gathering the data of our machines to see what is happening in the verse. And as soon as the server drops in frame rate, it starts this gathering of data. So I think after it drops under 30 FPS, you can see the FPS turns red rather than the consistent yellow, meaning that I think they start gathering information. Performance will just keep increasing as time goes on. There are new systems coming in to help as well as using the data that they get from us. They've also added the new feet movement on terrain, so players' legs and feet adjust more naturally, which I don't know if you've noticed, but it looks very cool, and they've improved interdiction. Now, Chris Roberts said he knows they need to earn the belief and the faith that they will meet the deadlines. He felt that 3.0 did do the game a bit of a disservice, which I agree with. So he doesn't want that to happen again. He also mentions that they want to spend some time working on improving what they have and then getting the quality of life up on the 3.1 build once released. So after each main release, he wants to address us and find out what is important to us, meaning that the roadmap may vary in some areas. Obviously, the roadmap is their intention, but it will adjust depending on what we need and what we see as more important. They're putting more focus on improving the current features rather than adding new things. The IFCS, which is your Intelligent Flight Control System, which controls your ship after you put the input in. I noticed someone asked a question on that one. And the flight model, the FPS movements, for example. They're going to focus on getting these more polished. Because of this, they may have to move a couple of bigger things in 3.2 to 3.3 so that they have more time to improve the current systems. Personally, I do agree with this. Obviously, I love new features, but it's pointless when the game is left unplayable. You can't really test it anyway, so polishing and improving the basic systems being one of the priorities in my opinion, so I'm glad that they're doing this. He did mention that mining has been in progress for a long while already, so that's definitely going to be in 3.2. He wants to know what we want next, so basically, not all the gameplay mechanics like repair, refuel, salvage will get in. Our vote will determine what comes first. Now, this is a vote to prioritise what comes next. We're not choosing whether we have that or not, or something else. They're all going to come eventually, it's just putting them first. The first one on the list was quantum linking, which is just jumping together as a group, so if you get interdicted, you all get interdicted. Also great for missions if you're jumping to a random jump point and you can all go together as a group. Getting into the game with friends and playing together is very important, Chris Roberts says. The next one is improved interdiction, so they're planning a quantum jammer. This can be on a ship or in a buoy. In the live 3.1 build, one AI ship that drags you out of quantum jump will have this item on board, and if you can find him and kill him, then you'll be able to jump again or getting out of the radius of the quantum jammer. 3.2 should bring the jammer buoy and eventually enabling players to use it against AI or other players as well, which is going to be fun. The next one is the service beacon improvement, so allowing the AI to use the service beacons. They want to spend more time on usability on the 3.1 build. It will come alive a bit more with 3.2 when you get this better rating system. But this is the first stage of player-generated missions. They will build upon it and allow contracts between players for many of the various jobs, not just transportation or combat help. The service beacon will have a full rating system like Uber, as I've mentioned. Both parties can then rate each other after the job's done. And if you have a bad rating, then, you know, if you're constantly screwing people over, you just won't get any jobs or people won't respond to you. The next one is the first tier of guilds and associations, which sounds really interesting actually. They mentioned with the Vulcan release, the Wayfarers Club. This will be a guild in the game functioning properly where members will get a discount when requesting help or whatever. They've always had plans for non-player guilds and orgs like the Mercenaries Guild, for example. 3.2 was to be the beginning of this, where you can maybe pay money for a monthly subscription to this guild, and as a member you'll get either jobs that are unavailable to non-members, you'll get help, more priority, and maybe discounts for certain things. He did sort of mention that the fiction and the lore written in Star Citizen is establishing the verse and will appear in the PU, so reading and paying attention to the lore posts may help you in the future and get a better understanding for the game. Next up is the party system. This is obviously just improving the ability to create groups and team up with friends, joining the same instance for jobs and missions. And team chat is the next one, which is unifying the friends list to allow players to speak to each other. This will be the precursor to FOIP and VoIP. I've actually voted for the party system and the team chat. There are other ones that I was a bit, I really wish I could vote for that one as well, but you know, you can only pick one. The economy shopping and UI is the next one. This is one I would have liked to pick. Increasing the products available, also ship items and ships, etc. using the kiosk. Currently, they don't have a place to sell ship weapons or ships because they're too large. Physically, I mean. They will have large physical stores and displays to do this, but the kiosk is the first step, so you can buy ships or vehicles or weapons. They will eventually get rid of the Voyager Direct store completely and put it in the game. That is obviously quite a high priority at the moment. The next one, which is another one I wanted to vote for, is the Item 2.0 System and Weapons. So allowing things to overheat, misfire, or suffer maybe critical failures based on their wear and damage. This also introduces deeper functions to upgrading items, so a newer item will make a greater difference. Chris Roberts said that this is one of the biggest missing elements of the core gameplay mechanic. The infrastructure is in, but there's just not enough of it so that we realise it. An example he gave is if you're overpowering your thrusters, they will overheat or misfire or eventually fail, and you'll need to trade off. So if you're running your ship too hard, you'll need to repair it, replace it, and so forth. They want to focus on the whole gameplay this involves. They just need to make sure that the whole loop is in and that we feel it. The final one is FPS AI combat. So getting the first stage of AI FPS combat in the ground, expanding on the mission types that AI could be waiting and ambushing you on the planets or in shipwrecks. It's not much of a challenge at the moment on the missions unless you randomly stumble across another player and then you have that standoff of, is he going to shoot? Are we friendly? You do the friendly dance and then it all blows up. But Chris Roberts did say that PvP will always have a loser. So the AI don't get pissed off, which is why the majority of the encounters in the verse will be with AI. So you have a better chance and ultimately feel like you've achieved something. Do remember that all these features are in the plans and will eventually make it into the game. This survey is just to prioritise what comes first. So we finished off with a couple of questions. First one is how far on is mining? And they say they're pretty deep into it. They've got the resource map for the planets, which determines what can be mined where and what rocks are generated. They have the gameplay already for controlling the mining laser and breaking rocks apart. It's looking good for 3.2. It should be quite a full feature and pretty polished as well at the time. So that should be good. The final question is there any additions to the racing gameplay? And he says they're going to look into having a dedicated team working on Arena Commander, Star Marine and the racing. They want it to have a consistent update, sort of new content and polishing. They don't want to pull people off what they're currently working on at the moment, so they'll have to look at the best option for that. Anyway, he finishes off with saying that the aim for 3.1 is to go live by the end of next week, so fingers crossed we get it. That was the Sit Down RTV with Chris Roberts. Some really good information there, and let me know what you vote for. So also this week there was a new post titled One Good Deed Part 1, which is lore revolving around a Vulcan pilot. I've not read that yet, but it does look quite interesting. The current status of the survey, which is to do with the 3.2 patch and what we're going to see first, is currently Item 2.0 ship systems and weapons are first. The economy shopping and UI experience is second. And in third, joint is quantum linking and FPS AI combat. And the top voted profession is salvaging. Do make sure that you cast your own vote. The link is below in the description. If you don't vote, you don't have a say. Finally, there is a sale on for all the newly flyable ships plus some others. So if there's a ship that you're looking to pick up, check it out. If you can afford the reclaimer, definitely buy it. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. It really helps me out. Big thank you to all my patrons, as your monthly donations helps me to make videos like these, paying for software and hardware. Do follow the link below if you want to learn how to become a patron. Be sure to follow me over on Twitch and join us as we delve into the verse or just sit around chatting about the latest news. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with what I'm up to, and Instagram for the hell of it. My name is Mac. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.